Hello guys, this is Dark Fox Sage 2 and we are back with our new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Fell in Love with Matsuri Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfiction. Group trudged through the forest, enjoying the camaraderie. On one hand, it was expected that they would be this way, seeing as how they had fulfilled their purpose. On the other hand, one would have expected them to be a bit more reserved, considering what they were returning from. And then, I just created a great Rasengan and then blasted him away. And then he just smirks at me. I'm like, what was up with that, huh? I mean, he gets a supercharged ball of chakra to the gut and he uses that expression. So was the fight youthful, Naruto-kun? A spandex-wearing youth yelled his question. If by youthful you mean easier than expected, then yes. I'm awesome, Datbeo. A Pinkett slightly slapped her teammate in the face. Don't let it go to your head. Ah, let me have this. Even if it were just a copy of the real thing, he would still have been incredibly hard to beat. He's right. Besides, look at how Team Guy had it difficult with the knockoff Kisame. Naruto is that strong now. Arigato, Kakashi-sensei. But still, I still have nightmares fighting you, Naruto. That mode really packs a punch. Wouldn't be useful if it didn't. Naruto. Hi, Gaara. Arigato, for helping me. You have now saved me twice. You have saved me from a dark path, as well as my life. You have my gratitude, my friend. He said in his monotone. The teenager grinned. I had to do it for my best friend. Most of Shukaku's chakra is gone. He used to be a one-tailed Biju. Now he's a quarter tail. You're still a Jinchuriki. The raccoon-faced Cage did not answer. Instead, he looked up at the sky while he walked, breaking out in a small smile. It truly takes a close death encounter to make one feel alive. It made him wonder about his past life. Did he truly feel alive when he was crushing people to death? No, he truly owed the blonde a lot. He now had his life, his family, his friends and the whole village to call his own. Speaking of the village, perhaps anyone would like to race back to Suna. Two spandex people shimmied up to the Cage's side. A race. He felt happy. Might as well enjoy life. Hi, a race. You hear that, Lee? Hi, Guy Sensei. The Cage wishes to fuel the flames of his youth with a youthful race. Everyone else who was aware of the proceedings shrugged, young and old alike. Might as well. It would also be a good way to see who was the fastest, as well as reach Suna faster. Why not? Sure. The blonde at the head of the group held out his hands to the sides to stop everyone from walking any further. He then walked to the far left and towed a line in the dirt to the far right. All right, he yelled. All participants toe the line. We'll start when the paper bomb goes off. Everyone slightly panicked. What paper bomb? The blonde took one out of his pouch and wrapped it around a kunai. He then threw it as hard as he could into the sky. He then hurried to his spot on the line. Get ready. Everyone else got to the line in their own fashion. From left to right, there were Naruto, Sakura, Chio, Kakashi, Guy, Lee, Gaara, Tenten and Neji, all in assorted starter running stances. All was quiet for a total of 3 seconds. Then the far-off sound of an explosion somewhere above them sounded. All of them took off like the proverbial bolt of lightning. Guy and Lee, as expected, took the lead and held it, Kakashi 2 meters behind them in third. Chio was faster than her age suggested and held fourth, much to Naruto's shock. He planned to rectify that. He closed his eyes for 5 seconds and reopened them, revealing a rectangular bar pupils that were amber-colored. His eyes were also bordered by orange eyeshadow. His perfected sage mode. He exerted himself more using his now Senin-enhanced legs and practically blinked out and back into reality, appearing beside Guy who was already moving at close to his top speed to stay ahead of his student who seemed to be trying his utmost. Mind you, they still had on their weights. Guy laughed, seeing Naruto beside him. Yosh, Naruto's youth burns brilliantly, but if I cannot win this race, I will do 10,000 push-ups, and if I cannot do that, I will do a 10-mile run 10 times in one day. And if I cannot do that, I'll carry Kakashi on my back and hop on one leg to Konoha. Said man's only visible eye widened before he actually slowed down a little. But to his horror, it seemed as if Naruto wanted that to happen by actually speeding up a little. Kakashi knew that his eternal rival's limit was 8,000 and odd push-ups and 9 suicide mile runs was his time limit to a day. Wait a minute, let a shadow clone take that punishment. In the meantime, he'll just catch up on his Ika Ika. Now re-spirited without the fright, he tried harder to win. After all, Guy was on 50 wins in challenges, as well as him. He needed a tiebreaker. Gaara's speed was nothing to scoff at. After carrying his own sand with him so much when he was younger, he was quite fast. So much so that he was in 5th place, ahead of the last 3 Chunin who trained under a Hokage and a Taijutsu speed demon. While they knew they wouldn't win, it was more like a race among themselves. Neji was only quick, not fast. All around agility, not running speed. Sakura and Tenten however remained last, but it was anyone's guess what they were chatting about back there. Naruto was sure however, that they were talking about him. As soon as gates, the Sand siblings waited at the gates along with a few people waiting on any news, be it good or bad about the cage. All were anxious. Some were adamant that he was alright and there would be a safe return, while a few others, while they were not pessimists, they fretted for the worst. Kankuro was a prime example, having seen an omen. He had discussed this with his sister Tamari, but she told him off that he should have more faith. He'll be fine, Kankuro. Trust me. That's easy for you to say, Tamari Nichan. I mean, the photo was well placed on the table with fair distance from the edge. And it just falls off with the crack over Gaara. That's just not a good sign. It's not like I don't want to believe you. I want him back home too, the puppeteer stated. I agree with Kankuro, though. Atetsu said. I mean, the Akatsuki are powerful. I heard that they have 10s rank members, including Itachi Uchiha the clan murderer and Kisame Hoshigaki of the Mist. They just took Lord Gaara, just like that. A teenage kunoichi with dark eyes clocked him in the top of his head. Why are you guys being so negative? She yelled angrily. Lord Gaara's stronger than that. He'll come back. Tamari watched the happenings with a small smile. Perhaps she should sick Matsuri on Kankuro. Maybe she'll straighten him out. Alright, all of you settle down, Baki ordered. He looked across the desert that was the land of wind where heat waves rose up off the sand. There was a slightly paved section that was a road, used by civilians and ninja alike. It held his attention now, seeing something far off in the distance with his uncovered eye. That does not look like heat waves or a mirage, Tamari. Look out there. Baki pointed out into the distance. Can you see what that is? The blonde woman stared out into the distance. Far off, she could see 9 specks. She was unsure of what they were, but they seemed to be getting bigger. Are those ninja? I think it's ninja. Matsuri grew excited. I bet that it's Lord Gaara coming. Maybe. Tamari agreed. They continued to watch. With the racers. Alright. The gates are in sight. Everything goes, people. Naruto yelled excitedly. It's a free for all. And then Bedlam reigned supreme. Sakura jumped up into the air and did a ground pound with her fist, showing off her newfound chakra-enhanced strength she learned under Tsunade. Immediately, a large crater came into being, throwing up a large plume of sand. She being the only one prepared for her stunt, everyone else lost footing and started to stumble and trip. She chakra dashed again, taking the lead. Oh hell no. Tenten got up quickly and threw a bolus at the Rosette Kunoichi. You know, the heavy metal balls on strings that vigilantes like Batman and Robin use. They wrapped around the girl, pinning her arms to her sides and made her fall, resembling a weird species of caterpillar. Damn it, Tenten! The girl shrieked in surprise. The weapon's mistress giggled as she passed her, only to be tripped by a convenient short pillar of sand that rose up in front of her. Wah! Gaara! said Cage chuckled as he bounded forward again, now in fourth. Chio used a chakra string on Kakashi's left leg to pull him to interrupt his running poise and made him fall harshly to the ground at the sudden stop. The old woman laughed out loud, but the man immediately transformed into Lee, revealing the lad crying anime tears for being used as a replacement in a substitution. Kakashi chuckled, now close to Guy because of Lee's closeness in place before. His chuckle abruptly ended when he saw a wall of sand appear in front of him. Using his sharpened reflexes, however, he darted around it and I smiled at Gaara. He however failed to notice that by turning around, Neji passed him, now directly behind Naruto. Said blonde was having the time of his life, testing out Sage Mode's natural speed against that of one of the fastest men he knew. So he naturally was unaware of what Neji intended to do. 8 trigrams. Empty palm. The wind chakra attack caught Naruto in the back of the head, making him face plant in mid-stride. He wasn't hurt, but he had sand in his mouth. He spat as he got up quickly. By now, everyone had passed him out except Sakura. This race is no joke. He channeled chakra into his legs and took off like a bullet, hoping to catch up to them at the very least before the race ended. He could see the gates coming up closer as he neared the group. Suddenly, he had an idea. Heh, I gave it to him. I take credit. He sprinted against the loose sand a bit more before spawning a clone about 10 meters ahead of him. Shadow clone jutsu, he cried, forming the modified cross hand seal. As he neared the clone, the doppelganger, Sage Mode is also present in clone, reached out and grabbed his creator's left arm at the shoulder, armpit and pulled him forward. In the same motion, the clone lowered his right hand close to the ground for Naruto to step in. The clone then had Naruto firmly placed in his hands and threw him forward with Sage strength at a 45-degree angle, the perfect degree for passing over his competitors' heads, unnoticed. He put his hands together in a water-cutting form to go through the air easier before he landed. The competition saw his fleeting shadow on the ground before he abruptly landed next to Guy, raising a torrent of desert sand that got into everyone's eyes. Ah, my eyes. Naruto. I'm used to getting sand in my eyes. Good thing I can just close my eyes and see through my eyelids with the Byakugan. Naruto-kun is truly youthful. I can't remove my weights. Lee's face looked uncharacteristically thoughtful. I'll open the first 2 gates. The spandex-wearing lad leapt into the air and focused his mental energies. The celestial gates. Gate of opening. Release. Chakra erupted from Lee while he was midair, attracting everyone's attention who was a bit bug-eyed that he would go that far. Gate of closing. Release. The green aura came off of Lee in earnest. As he landed, the boy flickered in and out of view nearing the gates quickly, much to everyone's shock, Naruto especially. Oh hell no. Naruto started spamming clones ahead of him to Kawarimi me with. Guy opened his first 2 gates as well, traveling in a manner like his student. Kakashi started using shunshuns to body flicker closer and closer to the gates. Gaara, in an effort not to be outdone, raised a sand tsunami and rode the tide of it, practically and literally everyone else behind him to eat his dust. The first 5, Lee, Guy, Naruto, Kakashi and Gaara held the race in a perfect tie. It would need an excellent trump card for one to win. And, the Cage cheated. Again. The darned wind shadow raised a very large and thick wall of sand with perfect manipulation 30 meters ahead of them. And his competition slightly panicked. To climb a wall like this even with chakra would take too long. To go around would have that time but still would take too long. So the Leaf Nins decided to go straight through. Dynamic entry. Leaf Whirlwind. Rasengan. Chidori. All of them flew through the wall in their own respective styles. Gaara simply made the sand tsunami he was riding merge with it, making it extremely large. He then simply pushed it forward a little more, then attempted to cover his fellow racers in sand. Kakashi, Guy and Lee went under almost instantly. Naruto merely smirked just before the sand reached him. And in the same second Gaara saw his friend with the mischievous smirk, he saw himself closer to the ground watching his own sand, his own element about to cover him. He had just been used in a substitution. Gaara gave a dry chuckle before he too was covered. Naruto, now on top of the falling tsunami, and more importantly, the lead in the race, simply ninja dashed across the finish line ecstatic. He was so much so, that he failed to see his welcomers, who just saw him bury their leader under his own element. 10 minutes later, Naruto watched the other participants run through the gates. And by run, it meant that they limped, crawled, and generally jogged across the line. He felt another tap on his head and yawned. Are you going to quit anytime soon? I said that my durability's through the roof. Matsuri withdrew her hand quickly with a slight scowl. You have to get out of that mode sometime. And when you do, you're gonna pay for what you did to the Lord Cage. The blonde slowly blinked his toad-like eyes. You saw Gaara about to cover me in a tidal wave of sand. I carry me with him and he gets caught in his own technique. It's sand, his element for Kami's sake. Besides, we were just playing around. She tried to punch him in the head again but failed miserably because of the Sage mode's prowess. You are to call him Lord Cage. Gaara came out of a sand shunshin next to the two, startling Matsuri. He's right. Besides, it doesn't make me much of a cage to get replaced into my own attack. Lord Gaara. Matsuri straight away left Naruto to go in front of the cage before bowing at the waist. We knew you would return. Naruto rolled his eyes. Glad you finally made it. So does this mean I'm the fastest, friend? Friend. Matsuri was confused. You're faster than me, but not the fastest, my friend. You still have a long way to go before you achieve that title. Gaara acknowledged before he turned to his pupil. Naruto-san is my first and oldest friend, Matsuri. I trust that you welcomed him as you would an important guest. Gaara asked, slightly narrowing his gaze at the girl. The brunette started to stumble in her speech. She sure did. Naruto exclaimed with a smile. I was welcomed warmly. Perhaps we should all go inside, nay. That's fine. Let me change first into something more suitable. The raccoon-eyed Cage stated before exiting in another sand body flicker. The two walked off towards the cage tower. Along the way they made a little small talk. More like the kunoichi of the pair asked a question that begged to be answered. Why did you lie for me? Matsuri blurted out. Lie? Oh, you mean about when Gaara asked about, the Uzumaki made a circular hand gesture, it's the, spit it out, say it, gesture that indicted for her to finish his sentence. Which she did. Your reception. Well, he didn't need to know that you and the other sand nin near outright attacked me when I came, going on about, burying the cage, he said, quoting Etetsu. It did seem that way. You assumed. That's your mistake. Even though Tamari and Kankuro vouched for me, you still tried to hit me upside the head with chakra-enhanced blows. It would look bad if I didn't defend Cage Gaara. The girl defended herself. Well, it didn't work anyway. They felt like you were tapping my head anyway. His toad-like eyes now turned back into their original cerulean state. Sage mode's time ran out. Matsuri saw the change in his eyes and fought to keep down a rising blush. Wow, look at those eyes. Whoa, what am I saying? Wait a minute, are you calling me weak? She asked angrily. No, what I'm saying is that I am so strong that it looks as if you are in comparison. She calmed down. Oh, realization struck her again. Wait, what? She whipped out her Johio. Wait, what? She put her Johio. Naruto's eyes widened as soon as he saw the weapon. Almost immediately, she had hurled the spear end at him, aiming for his chest. He quickly let his hidden kunai fall out of his sleeve and he deflected it to the right. Not to be outdone, she pulled on the rope towards her own body and jerked it to her right, sending to him once more. To his growing horror, it seemed as if it was heading for a meeting with his eye. He inhaled deeply and flipped the kunai in his palm and caught the dart in the ring of the kunai, just 3 inches from his eye. He exhaled now, grabbing the rope and pulled on it sharply. The girl, not expecting the motion, was pulled off her feet. She was going to face plant on the ground when he suddenly reappeared at her side and caught her in the crook of his arm across her front shoulder level. He was avoiding catching her at the breasts. Not letting the chance to hurt him while his guard was down, she elbowed him in the nose. To her surprise, he poofed away into smoke, indicating that he was a shadow clone. And she was falling again because she had never righted herself. She put both her palms in front of her to stop herself from fully falling, being on hands and knees. She got back to her feet and looked around for him, but he could not be found. Hey, up here. She followed the voice and saw him sitting on a nearby building, legs dangling over the edge. You broke my nose. Well, you would have if you were fighting me instead of a shadow clone the whole time. The memory I got doesn't lie. She growled and gathered the rope of her Johio again. Naruto raised an eyebrow when he observed the action. The kunoichi threw the dart again at her top throwing speed. She almost felt elation when she saw he wasn't making an effort to dodge. Suddenly, the dart stopped a foot before it reached him and she noticed an arm holding onto the rope from next to her. She turned around to see Naruto holding onto the rope. Her eyes widened as she regarded him, her eyes flickered to both of them in surprise. Who? When? If you're done fighting my clones, the one next to her said. The one on the roof poofed away. We should be making our way to the Cage's tower. Besides, you're scaring the passers-by. She looked around at the people staring and had the decency to slightly hang her head embarrassedly, not noticing them in the first place. The Uzumaki pulled on her arm lightly. Come on, let's go. He looked around at the assorted Suna villagers. Don't you people have somewhere to be? They all hurried away in different directions, pretending as if they were never there in the first place. The blonde merely shrugged before slightly tugging on Matsuri's arm. Come on, Matsuri, use your legs. She started walking properly under her own accord beside him, a bit meekly. When did you create the clones? She had to know. She had never seen someone use clones even half as well as this individual. He frowned as he looked ahead. I created the first clone when you looked down at your belt to take out your Johio. That was when I went to find a place to take a leak. The second clone was what I created after I finished that. He spoke up just as I was washing my hands with a small sweetened technique created from pure chakra. I finished and came just in time to see you about to dispatch the second one. You mean the whole time you were just, she trailed off. I couldn't wait till I found a bathroom. She couldn't believe it. While she certainly wasn't going all out, Naruto was strong enough to just send clones to keep her occupied while he, watered a cactus. Am I that weak, insignificant? She muttered, remembering her days in the academy when she was constantly teased about being weak. He turned around sharply as he heard her. Don't you dare think that for a second. I was only stalling and I was hoping that you wouldn't notice me leave. I would have substituted back later and no would have ever known. Frankly, you are strong and don't beat yourself up. Besides, I was training with Jiraiya of the Sannin. I learned a lot under his tutelage, so it's no surprise that I know a thing or two. Do you think you're weak? Hi, she mumbled weakly. So if someone loses, they're weak. Is that what you're saying? Not what I meant. But yeah, I think so. He grinned widely. Then I'm the biggest loser you will ever meet. So are the Subaku siblings, as far as I've seen. Not Lord Gaara, Tamari Taiko or Kankuro-sama. Hi, I mean what I said. I'm going to tell you plain and simple. I lost things all the time. Many times, I won things by pure luck. If not for that, I would have died. By the way, do you know why the Akatsuki took Gaara in the first place? Matsuri nodded. Shukaku. Alright. The Akatsuki took Gaara. He lost to them. Do you think he's weak? Of course not. Gaara lost to me in simple thing as a footrace. I even substituted him into his own attack. Is he weak? The girl was indignant. No. But you had Sage Mode for extra power. You wouldn't have beaten him without it. Do you know how Gaara and I came to be friends? No. It was during the Chunin exams. At the time, he was nothing more than a killing machine. He transformed into a tailed state when I was trying to stop him from killing my teammates. Soon, it escalated into him relinquishing his control and will to the Aikibi who threatened to destroy the village. There he was, the Aikibi at full-tailed beast size. Would have made short work of the village. And you know what? What? She questioned, now intrigued. The village is still standing. I summoned the boss toad, Gamabunta, and we beat him, when Gaara was at the peak of his power. She was mind blown. Now, even though we, and by we, I mean Gaara and myself, do you think we're weak? No, she muttered. I'm sorry. Did I just hear a yes? Naruto smirked. No, she said louder. She looked at the ground. What about Tamari-san and Kankuro-san? I'm going to tell you pure and simple. Tamari lost in the Chunin exams to the laziest guy in the elemental nations when he only knew one technique, and you know she's a very proficient wind user. And Kankuro lost his fight to some insects. His smirk grew into an amused smile. She caught it and she started giggling a bit as well. Shikamaru. She lost to Shikamaru. And Kankuro lost to Shino. And both siblings were already prodigies. They're definitely not weak. Naruto smiled warmly at the kunoichi. Now you see. You're not weak. Besides, what I said was just the literal truth. It wasn't an unkind truth or taunt or anything. Okay. Alright. They finished their journey to the Cage's tower and let themselves inside. The air inside the building was quite cool considering the fact that they were in the desert. It could have been the fact that it felt cool inside by comparison, or there was a continuous air circulation technique being used. Naruto bet that it was the latter. The decor seemed to be entirely made out of sandstone and hardened with chakra. There were even large and impressive-looking statues, 4 of them to be precise, which they passed. They climbed the long flight of stairs adjacent the statues and soon came upon average-sized double doors. Matsuri stepped ahead of Naruto and opened the door for him. Shouldn't it be the other way around? She frowned. You're the guest of Suna while I am native. It would make more sense that it should be this way. Well, I think it's more courteous that the male do it. Faye. That's just tradition. Naruto strode up and opened the other door. Let's just cut through the whole tangled problem and enter at the same time. Whaddya say? Huh. Fine. On 3. She nodded. 1, 2, 3. They walked in at the same time and closed the doors in a similar fashion. Sue, what now? The blonde asked the brunette. Can you describe the fight between you and Lord Gaara? With Gaara. The redhead finally finished his shower and dried himself off thoroughly. He then pulled on another set of his cage robes. He neglected the hat. Personally, he hated it. It made him feel like he was like his much older counterparts of the other elemental nations when he was still a teenager. Finally, he regarded himself in the large standing mirror. He was pleased. After not going through a proper cleaning while getting Shukaku's chakra sealed away, not to mention the battle tears and wears he got when fighting Deidara, he really appreciated the bath. Besides, after getting caught in a sand tsunami, he had sand everywhere like how he used to be. He hated that too. He quickly left the room in a sand shunshin to his office, fully expecting to see everyone congregated there. Exiting the shunshin 3 seconds later, to find the doors closed and laughter and loud talking going on inside. Whoa. A muffled voice said. You stuck a paper bomb on a kunai between the crack of his ass. It was more under the tail, but yeah. Right between the cheeks, Tenten. Another voice said. I taught him that move. No you didn't, Kakashi-sensei. In fact, you used the jutsu on me, even. Naruto-san, I don't think you should be shouting that. Leave me alone, Neji. It was already humiliating at the time. I mean, he just pokes me in the ass with the tiger handseal. My unyouthful rival, how could you use that technique on a genin? You say something, guy. Gaara, having enough, opened the doors and walked inside the room. Everyone fell silent and he could see all who went on his retrieval mission as well as his siblings and Baki. Most were seated except for Lee and Guy. Kakashi sat on Matsuri's armrest while everyone else sat in the chairs in their own ways, most were slouching. As soon as they saw the cage they all straightened. Kakashi got off the armrest and stood, but Naruto remained casual. Come on, Naruto, at least stand in the presence of the cage. Tenten said. Her facade broke before she started giggling. Quote. They all looked at her before their emotions broke and all started chuckling in their own fashions. Gaara sighed. He knew what they were talking about. So he decided to use Naruto's words. It was already humiliating enough at the time. They were all laughing before he decided to kill the mood. You all seem happy about the fact that you had to send a genin to stop a tailed beast from destroying all you hold near and dear, what with no sealing masters around. That did it. Now if you're all done digging up what should be buried in the past, we're here to make a written account of what happened for my retrieval. Naruto coughed as his face grew serious. Right. So, who's going first? I think Kakashi-sensei should go first, starting after we left Suna. Sakura said. Kakashi shrugged before he scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Well, okay. Are you going to get everything, Baki-san? He looked to the Suna Junin, who had seemingly gotten out a scroll and an ink brush with an inkwell out of nowhere and spread it out across the Wind Shadow's desk, which was already fortunately clear of obstacles and stationary. Hi, I'm quick with a brush. You may speak at a normal speed. The Hatake nodded. Well, we were already making good time in going to the Akatsuki hideout. However, we soon met up against Itachi Uchiha in a clearing. After a short dialogue between ourselves and the new Kennen, we began to fight. He paused to look at Baki. The man Junin seemed to have already penned it and nodded to him for continue. Naruto suggested that he should do a finisher and I would be a distraction, counting on the fact that Itachi assumed that I use my lightning blade for the finish. I complied, knowing of his increased prowess from his training. I used the Reikiri in him and as expected, he dodged. While we were in the smoke cloud from mist attack, Naruto created a great Rasengan and plunged it into the Uchiha's gut. A white chakra explosion ensued and Itachi died in the explosion. In the aftermath, when we went to look at the corpse, we saw that it was a man named Yura, according to Lady Chiyo. Yura, Baki growled. He served on Suna's council for 4 years. How could he have been working for the Akatsuki? I don't know. Perhaps that was how they were able to infiltrate Suna's borders and security so easily. Anyway, Chiyo sealed his body in a storage scroll and decided that we needed to make haste to save the cage. I presume she has the corpse now currently being analyzed. When we reached the hideout, we came upon a very large boulder with a reinforcement seal. Naruto activated his Sage mode to sense for the sealing switches around the area and sent clones to remove them all at once. In the same instance, Sakura destroyed the boulder and we entered. We had interrupted their extraction process, and in the same instance, Naruto, who was still in Sage mode, created a giant Rasengan and Shunshin next to the statue the Ikibi was being sealed into and blasted it. The Rasengan caught it in the chin and the mouth closed up, stopping the process. Naruto was sitting in a chair, fist pumped. Yeah. Kakashi gave a small eye smile and continued. There were images of other members there who were aiding the sealing, but they quickly vanished when the statue was attacked. Deidara and Sasori were there, however, and instantly, everyone was fighting everyone. And to be clear, this was all going on inside the statue room. Naruto and I took on Deidara the Mad Bomber, and Lady Chiyo and Sakura took on Sasori of the Red Sands. Sasori mentioned something about no explosions around the ghetto statue, and Deidara started making small explosives with clay chewed and prepared with mouths in his hands. I'm sorry, did you just say mouths in his hands? Baki asked, confused. Hi, mouths in his hands. Baki shook his head slowly and continued to write. Matsuri only looked at her own hands and looked as if she wanted to throw up. He made explosives about the potency of B rank to A rank explosive tags, and his clay bombs took on the forms of animals and they pursued us in like fashion, such as snakes slithering or birds flying. Naruto, who was still using Sage mode, used his enhanced speed to dodge while I was using my Sharingan to predict where the explosives would intercept me and avoid them. Eventually, When Deidara thought we were getting too close for comfort, he created a large clay bird to fly around the cavern. He was about to fly outside when Naruto threw a clone at him who had Rasengans in both hands. Rasengan barrage. Naruto corrected. Anyway, it took down the bird and Deidara fell. And I landed a fatal hit by punching him with senjutsu force, shattering all of his ribs. Naruto, do you mind? Heh heh. Continue Kakashi-sensei. Quote. You can continue. His body started to glow and we assumed that it was a post-death technique that would blow up. We didn't want to take any chances on its blast force, so I used a space-time ninjutsu to warp it away in another dimension. Baki raised an eyebrow. It's true. Now it's Sakura's turn. She describes her fight with her and Chio versus Sasori. It's all canon events, except for telling them about a spy at Tenchi Bridge. So he's the one who caused the third's disappearance. He killed the Sandame and used his body for a human puppet. Hi, according to Lady Chio. Matsuri grimaced. That's horrible. Everyone nodded in agreement. So did you get everything, Baki-san? Kakashi asked. Hi. So what does this mean for us, Kazekage-sama? It means that the Red Dawn is rising. We all need to train at least twice as hard to prepare for the coming storm. Gaara, is it because you became a Kage why you started talking like an old man? Naruto asked, half in jest. Quote. Matsuri clocked him over the head. Show some respect, Naruto. Geez. It was just a joke. I mean, he's my age, for crying out loud. I don't talk like that. Everyone else had to agree. You're right. And that's why Kazekage Gaara has more charisma. Matsuri said to him, deflating the blonde's ego. Gaara just closed his eyes. Let us all take a break. Some of you hadn't gotten cleaned up yet. Baki will escort you to a hotel near the Kazekage mansion. The Golden Luxury. Baki stated. The Golden Luxury. Please care for yourselves and return for supper in the mansion at 7 p.m. Everyone sighed and left the room one by one. Some walked out, some shun-shinned. Gaara left last, locking the empty room behind him. He walked at a moderate pace with his fellow ninja from the Leaf and soon arrived at their hotel. Matsuri had been kind enough to escort them to the Golden Luxury and none of them were complaining. The faster they arrived, the quicker they could wash up. Most of them stunk Guy, some of them wanted to spoil themselves Tenten, Sakura, and yet there were others who were neat freaks. Neji, Kakashi. Naruto did not care too much at present if he showered or not. He wasn't one who enjoyed filth, but he had gone through disgusting situations, especially during sage training. He had to be able to retain his focus while sitting in a toad's salivating mouth, for instance. The stuff lingered on clothes and he had no soap at Mount Myoboku to clean it. Just a half-assed rinse and he was stuck with the horrible stench for a month. They gazed up at the expansive hotel, only rivaled by the Kazecage's mansion. It was also made with sandstone, but other elements were used. There were even marble pillars, probably crafted and shipped all the way from Iwagakure. Alright, let's go inside. The Suna Kunoichi instructed the Leaf Nin. She led the way up the steps into the front desk. Once she met the receptionist, she quickly explained the situation. She then gave the woman the Gaara's seal with his instructions that everything was to be complimentary. Well. Gaara ni sure knows how to treat guests, huh? Naruto elbowed his Pinkett teammate. Yeah, he sure does. Even though when we were kids he nearly crushed me to death. She whispered back the last, so only he would hear. Ah, you gotta let go of the past, Sakura-chan. If it makes you feel any better, he nearly crushed me too. He said aloud, cluing everyone in on what they were talking about. Sakura's sweat dropped. Didn't you learn any tact over the 3 years? Sure. But I'm always gonna speak my mind. He grinned, making her groan. She rolled her eyes as she strode forward to claim her room key. Matsuri took it from the receptionist and handed it to the medic Kunoichi, who took it gratefully. Great. A shower's at the top of my needs list right now. Who am I sharing it with? You and Tenten-san. Then it's Kakashi-san with Guy, Lee, Neji-san and Naruto. The brunette answered, handing 2 more keys, one to the Hitaki and the other to the stoic Hyuga. That's fine. Good setup. Although I have to put up with 2 of the most hyperactive members of my generation. I'm not like that anymore, Neji. You only need to be worried about Lee-san. It's youth, not hyperaction, Neji. Neji just started walking away. He had had a long day fighting some fish-faced freak with black beady eyes, and frankly, he was tired of his team members' rants about youth. Naruto shrugged and followed him, leaving everyone else to their assorted talks, mainly that of which Kakashi wanting a trade with his placement with Guy. 2 hours later, the Uzumaki left the bathroom, now in a casual kimono provided by the hotel. He stepped back into his room and saw Neji reading a book, turned away from his teammate who was currently doing push-ups. If the aura surrounding Neji was a suggestion of his mood, he was about to blow up in frustration. Say, Rock, why don't you go take a bath, huh? I've read somewhere that being clean was, youthful, Naruto told Lee. I have never seen a fanfic where a character uses his first name only, instead of his last. Youthful, Naruto-kun, I shall have as many showers as possible. The bowl-cut teen yelled in enthusiasm. He streaked out in a blur of green, kicking up a small wind. The blonde chuckled. Well, I just bought you some peace, Neji. He grunted in response, not looking up. What are you reading? He sat on his bed in a lotus position, preparing to meditate. Serenity found in reunited souls. Oh, well, I won't tell you any spoilers. Don't wanna ruin it for you. The Hyuga looked up. You read. He held up the medium-sized book. This. He closed his eyes. Helped inspire it. The pale-eyed teen snorted. As if. My name is in the special thanks. It's at the end of the book, page 726. His focus started to rise as his outward awareness receded. By the time this process was completed, he missed hearing Neji give a small shout when he found the page. What the hell? Special thanks to one Naruto Uzumaki, whose noble efforts helped to inspire this book's creation. He looked back at the blonde who was apparently meditating. Brand new Naruto, huh? He started reading again, now in a hurry to find out how it ended. He was in the void. It was the perfect shade of gray. He was as light as a feather. He was as heavy as the earth itself. He was as significant as the sun, but he was as pointless as hate. He was as deadly as a blade and harmless as breathing air. Here, he felt truly alive, and truly dead. He has love to give, and everyone to hate. He was yin and yang. He had to find balance. Perfect balance. Without it, he could give up on living, give in to hate. Without it, he could become deliriously happy, complacent and idiotic. It was the curse of being a sage. He had to hate and love equally. It was one of the reasons he had stopped pursuing his Rosette teammate in romance, why he had stopped hating the village's treatment of him when he was younger. He had to be perfectly neutral. With balance, comes perfect peace. With perfect peace, one perfects the sage arts. Jiraiya had failed in doing so, the reason he had failed in becoming the perfect sage. He had to rely on the elder toads. Naruto achieved neutrality. This was why he had mastered sage mode, even more than his mentor. It was even more phenomenal given the fact when he had a mass of hate in a seal on his stomach. He was a sage. Hey, wake up, Naruto. It's time for supper with Lord Casecage. Someone was shaking him by the shoulders, trying to rouse him back to reality. His waking reflexes nearly made him try to chop the person's neck before he recognized the voice as Matsuri's. He opened his eyes to find himself back in his room on his bed. Supper. The Casecage is waiting on everyone. He sent me to fetch you. She insisted. She was about to slap him lightly when he caught her hand. That won't be necessary. I wasn't sleeping. Sure looked that way. She stepped back and allowed him space to hop off the bed. Meditation, he corrected, slipping on his sandals and looking around the room. Where are Lee and Neji? They're there already. It's just you who isn't. He scratched his head a bit sheepishly and grinned. Well, someone should have told me. You said you weren't sleeping. He studied the girl in front of him. She was wearing a kimono as well, a green one with a little floral pattern around the legs. It was somehow casual and outgoing at the same time. So you will be there too, huh? Yeah, of course. The mansion is a part of the tower. No. Then I don't know where it is. Lead the way, please. He motioned to the door with a small wave. She rolled her eyes before she walked out, Naruto close at her heels. The journey was mostly silent, the teenager in the lead with Naruto a little behind and to the side. His senses were taking in every detail at once, like a truly seasoned shinobi. He felt the heat of the desert was rapidly cooling as the sun set, while he saw vendors and other business places started to close. He could hear them locking the bolts of their doors securely into place. He licked his lips and flickered the sand lightly with his tongue to spit it away. And that smell. Say, Matsuri. She looked back at him using her peripherals. Was the perfume necessary? It's only a small dinner function. With the cage, you should be more familiar with him, even more than me. Or is it that you want it to be that way? He wagged his eyebrows suggestively. What? No. The girl fought down a small blush and coughed in her hand to hide it. What makes you say that? You seem pretty eager to defend him at every turn. He smirked. I'm, a ninja of his village. I'm supposed to. She defended herself. So that's why you're wearing that very sensual perfume and not carrying your johio. Don't try me, Naruto. She warned him. I'm petrified. I wonder how Gaara will react. Matsuri-chan, that's a lovely number you're wearing. Naruto imitated his friend's monotone. Find the place yourself. In her exasperation, she performed a quick shunshin, leaving him behind. The sand from her shunshin got in his eyes, irritating it. He rubbed it lightly, thinking about how to get to the function now without direction. Even now, no one was on the road he could ask. Wait a minute, I could just sense for Gaara's chakra with Sage mode. Then all body flicker there too. Besides, maybe the mode will help ward off the cold. I'm not really used to it. He closed his eyes to gather a little natural chakra before he activated the power-up. As it became active, he absent-mindedly noted that it took a half-second longer to sift through the balance. He presumed that he needed to take a small break from using it so much. He quickly used the sensing abilities that came with Sage mode and searched for Gaara's chakra signature. Finding it close to the signatures of his friends and comrades, he quickly body flickered away in a puff of smoke. 2 seconds later, his surroundings changed to that of a large dining room with everyone sitting at a long rectangular table with Gaara at the head of it. His friends sat on either side, but that wasn't what grabbed his attention. He noticed that Matsuri had taken the seat closest to Gaara, one that was to his direct left. He guessed that it was because of the bond they shared. A bond, he didn't knew what it was of. He planned to find out soon. Normally, his old braggart self would have tried to claim a seat close to the head of the table, but he only remained brash with his friends when the mood was cheerful. Now, it was about being respectful, whether he was best friends with the cage or not. He took his seat at the foot of the table. No sooner had he did, Sakura stood up. Well, now that he's finally here, we can eat. I'll grace it, if no one. Actually, I'll grace it, Sakura. Gaara stood up, revealing that he had donned a casual red cage robe for the dinner. If you don't mind. Of course not. She sat back down and everyone waited expectantly. Arigato Kami, for providing this food, and for granting the ability to the cooks who prepared it. I also thank thee for giving me another chance at life, so I may partake of this meal with those I care for. He sat back down, and that served as a general signal for everyone to start digging into the buffet spread fit for a cage. It wasn't every day they got to eat a meal as fantastic as this. As soon as everyone had what they wanted on their plate, they all in one accord looked to Kakashi, who had piled his plate the highest. The man noticed the stares when he looked up. What? Nothing. They all replied in one accord and looked down again, keeping an eye on the masked man. Oh boy, everything looks good. He was about to pull down his mask with an index finger when all the lights turned off suddenly. Whoa, what the hell? Naruto yelled, instinctively channeling chakra in his eyes so he could see well in the dark. I wanna see, Sakura shouted. In that instant, the sound of glass breaking was heard. Then for the next 10 seconds, the sound of someone stuffing their face with food was heard, then an audible gulp, and finally, a belch that reverberated around the dining room. The lights came back on to reveal Kakashi with his mask back over his face and a clean plate. Something on my face. Yes, Tenten shouted. Your mask. Did you do something to the lights so we couldn't see your face? This is awkward. I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, Yane. Hitaki shunshin back to the hotel in a puff of smoke, leaving the table in silence. Quote. Well, Naruto clapped his hands in finality. That's that. Maybe next time everyone. By the way, who broke their cup? Neji did. Lee said smugly, which was very unbecoming of him. He couldn't see in the dark. Said Hyuga coughed in his hand while blushing before shunshining back to the hotel to avoid the embarrassment. The rest of the Leaf Ninja just sweat dropped at the actions. The Uzumaki simply took up his plate and went to Neji's place, which was next to Matsuri's seat, on her right. He had spotted some noodles up the sand Nin was and he was going to damn well partake of it. He spawned a clone to pick up the glass midway to the seat. Excuse me. Pardon. He sat down in the chair and pushed over Neji's food out of the way before putting a dish cover on it. No one else though it unusual for him to move to the noodles. They all remembered his obsession over ramen, so it was no surprise. He helped himself to some of the noodles before he reached for a little of the pork to go with it. With that done, he took some of the raw vegetables to border the meat before he started to eat, along with his fellow diners. Half an hour later, when Gaara had seen everyone finished with their meal, clapped his hands sharply. Two servants' aides who had waited at the door retreated to the kitchen and returned, each with a large platter complete with covers. They placed both on the table and revealed the contents under the silver covers. One was a sponge cake with white icing and red cherry flavored drops circling the top, while the other was a chocolate wine cake, laced with potent sake to increase the alcohol content. So much so, the cake stunk of it. Smells good. That's 2 out of 5 stars already, Gaara ni. Naruto quipped. He reached for the cake cutter and removed a sizable portion of the wine cake and set it carefully on his plate, making a show of dexterity, given his seating distance from said cake. Gaara made a similar feat from his place as well, taking a size that rivaled Naruto's for himself. I enjoy this cake's recipe in particular, Naruto ni. And I'm entertaining other guests. I think I'll stay away from the wine cake. Sakura said as a whiff of it passed her. I've seen what it does to my mentor. She and Tenten both cut slices off the sponge cake. Tenten's was moderate and Sakura's was small. Guy decided to leave, not wishing to have any of the cake. As he got up, he saw Lee about to bring a piece of wine cake to his mouth. Kami. Lee. No. Tenten's eyes widened. Oh she. In a blink, Naruto was beside Lee, his hand between Lee's fork and his mouth, blocking the morsel of sake-infused cake. Can someone tell me why no one wants Lee to have his slice of cake? The Uzumaki asked, looking around at the others. No one answered. They were dumbstruck. Except for Gaara, of course. He never showed real emotion. Hello. Naruto shrugged before he removed the slice of the ninja's cake from his possession and put it back on the cake platter. He then cut a slice off the harmless cake and put it on Lee's plate instead. Then he calmly walked back to his own seat and started to eat his cake, the silence beginning to disturb him. Gaara gave off a vibe that usually accompanied a shrug. They seem to be shocked at your speed. He started eating his own slice of cake. Although I too wonder why they didn't want Lee to eat the wine cake. Beats me. It was Guy that came to first. Naruto. That speed is so youthful. Would you be interested in learning the Goken Taijutsu? Oh, I would, rather not Guy-san. I'm already trying to polish my own. Which is? Naruto smirked a little. I'm not at liberty to say. The less who know, the better. Of course. How hip and cool. The man practically yelled before he calmed visibly. But pertaining to the earlier matter, it's just that my pupil Lee cannot ingest any forms of alcohol, be it weak or strong. If he did, he would become hopelessly drunk and try to fight everything he sees. And since he's a talented strong fist user, he would destroy everything he sees. Naruto reasoned, figuring out the problem. I see. I guess thanks are in order for warning us. I was about to intervene myself. The spandexed man gave a thumbs up and a glinting smile before he body flickered home. That's that. Naruto forked up another piece of cake to his mouth, savoring the taste. Tastes really good. Really. Matsuri reached over and cut herself a moderate-sized piece before she transferred it to her plate. The smell alone could probably get me drunk. Aren't you underaged? Naruto asked, throwing her a smug expression. Old enough to kill, old enough to. She took a bite of the cake before her face slightly reddened. Gulp, eat this sake bomb of a cake. Wow, how much did they put in there? Just enough. Naruto and Gaara said simultaneously, none of them unnerved by the action. Matsuri, not willing to be outdone, ate another piece of it and more blood rushed to her face. Yeah, just enough to kill me. How can the both of you eat? She gestured to the cake with her fork. That is a simple question. The Kazekage said in monotone. Naruto, shall I tell her? Sure. Why not? She doesn't seem to be biased. It's just Lee and Tenten that I'm afraid of. Well, if they don't like the answer, I guess I'll lie. On the greater chance, they might be fine, given the fact that they're okay with you. This made everyone else who were eating their respective desserts look to him. Gaara closed his eyes, garnering everyone's attention. The reason is simple. Naruto and I are both Jinchuriki. Our respective inner demons make it next to impossible for us to get drunk. Tenten raised an eyebrow. Inner demons. Oh yeah. Naruto waved his hand in an, it's no big deal, motion. I am the container for the nine-tailed fox, the beast that raised half of Konoha to the ground 16 years ago. He said it so casually and nonchalantly, the ignorant teens had a hard time believing him. Naruto, that joke is most unyouthful. Lee said in a frown. It's true. Sakura said. He's not lying. They immediately got horrified looks on their faces, mixed in with realization. So, the huge chakra reserves? Tenten said softly. Hi. The red chakra you used against Neji. Lee said the question in an uncharacteristic low tone. Hi. The giant toad transformed into a fox. Hi. He started eating his cake again along with Gaara. Sasuke using Chidori on you twice and you survived. He nodded, mouth full of cake. The villagers glaring and treating you like. He swallowed and held up his hand to stop them. Alright, that's enough. No need to backtrack any further. So anyway, the demons just neutralize any and all poisons they detect in the bloodstream, and rapidly heal all injuries. That's why me and Gaara can't get drunk. They all blinked. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not hungry anymore. Tenten put down her fork, soon followed by Lee. What? Naruto said. Pardon? Tenten asked. What has changed? I don't know what you mean. Tenten replied. I'm asking you, what does this mean for the both of you? Does this mean that I have a plague? A sign that says, unclean? No. Lee answered. Meh. Matsuri went on to attempt another try at her slice of cake. Nothing's changed for me, I guess. Explains the close relationship between you and Gaara-sama at the very least. Thanks, Matsuri. But you should have seen this coming anyway. Naruto said, half joking, half serious. Whatever. You're behaving like this isn't a big deal, Naruto. Tenten cried. No, it's not a big deal. Well, besides the fact I've grown up an outcast, regularly mistreated and underfed, sabotaged by the academy, get betrayed by Sasuke, who I thought of like a best friend, a brother even, getting targeted by the Akatsuki, nothing has really changed. He finished his cake and cut 2 more slices of the sponge cake and wrapped them both in napkins. Gaara eyed the action and gave a questioning look. For Kakashi-sensei and Neji-san. Gaara nodded and Naruto immediately shunshined home in a swirl of leaves. He came out of his shunshin in front of the hotel where he was spending the night. He quickly ran to the door and checked it with his free hand. It was unlocked, so he went inside and shut it behind him. As soon as he did, he noticed a sign on the inside that said the doors were locked at midnight. That's convenient. I bet it's only 9 p.m. 10 p.m. at the most. He transferred one of the cake slices to his right hand, having them both separate and making walking less cumbersome. He quickly went up the stairs in a mild run until he got to the floor where all the Konoha nin were staying. He stopped at Kakashi and Guy's rooms first and called. "Oi, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto. Come in." Doors unlocked. Naruto retransferred the second slice to the first hand and turned the knob with his free left hand. When he walked in, he saw Guy and his sensei playing tic-tac-toe. He sweat dropped. Really? There are 100 youthful spaces in it, Naruto-kun. We have already used 57 of them, but none of us have gained the advantage. Guy exclaimed before he wrote in an X. Anyway, sensei, you left before we all got cake. I cut a slice for you. Kakashi looked up from the sheet of paper. Cake. A bit too sweet for this time of night, isn't it? There's a vanilla sponge cake and a wine one, made with a lot of sake. If you're worried about the sugar, I'm sure that you can save it for tomorrow. Just put it in a storage seal. Said Junin took a small one out of his Junin vest on a hanger and took the sponge cake from him. Alright, we're leaving tomorrow at 10 a.m., by the way. Don't oversleep. He walked out of the room. I won't. He finished closing the door, and just before he left, he heard muffled shouts of one of them winning. If the yells were anything to go by, it sounded like Kakashi had won. He sighed as he went to his room. He had just realized that he had to sleep with Lee that night, as well as Neji. As he said to the two, he would live. He wouldn't care what they thought of him, but if they felt that they had to distance themselves from him, so be it. He had been a long time on his own. He had grown to be a somewhat solitary figure, and he had grown used to it. He knocked on the door twice to announce his entry before he walked in. He saw Neji lying on his back in his bed reading the same book from earlier. Naruto smiled a little when he saw it. Enjoying the book? Huh. The plot is very engaging. How was your meal? Delicious. Say, I brought this slice of cake for you. Cake. I don't have much of a sweet tooth. Do you drink alcohol? Naruto went and sat on his bed. Yeah. No. I believe that it only carries ill effects with no gain. Why should I partake of such a beverage? I brought back a slice of cake for you. Problem is, a lot of sake was used in the mix. Although I'm famished. No thank you. Hungry? Huh. Naruto quickly pulsed his chakra lightly, revealing 6 seals drawn on the underside of his arm. He sealed the cake in the first one closest to the crook where his biceps were and unsealed something from the second one. Ration bar. I'm not that hungry. Although it begs the question, why do you have storage seals on your person, especially for food? Only the first 2 are for food. Only the first 2. He sealed back the ration bar. So what is it that you want then? Probably nothing I want, I assume. Naruto crossed his arms. I have a lot. Try me. A medium-sized bowl of perfectly steamed white rice bordered on all sides with tomato sauce. Thin strips of white meat chicken cooked until tender with scallion, thyme, leeks and garlic, with a sprig or 2 of parsley for presentation. Neji gave a small smirk, knowing that the specific meal was most likely unavailable. That's very specific, Neji. Unfortunately, he unsealed a bowl with said meal from the first seal, making the Hyuga's eyes widen. I carry 2,000 different foods and meals, 1,000 for each seal. He handed it to Neji, who took it gratefully, who still couldn't believe it. Is it fresh? I'm unsure about how meals react inside seals. Not that I'm not thankful. Seals are timeless. No time passes inside a seal. If you paid more attention, you would realize that the food is still warm. Neji saw steam rising from his food. Indeed it is. He started eating with two chopsticks he found taped underneath the bowl while Naruto began writing a note in small notepad he retrieved from his third seal. He wrote down the specifications of the food he gave Neji and then sealed it away again. Hey Neji. His mouth was already preoccupied with eating. Remember 3 years back at the Chunin exams when I countered your rotation? He swallowed his bite of food. Hi. Why do you ask? You'll see. With that, Naruto shinned away in a puff of smoke, leaving the Hyuga befuddled. 5 seconds later, Lee and Tenten barged into the bedroom. Neji, you would never believe what happened at dinner. Tenten screamed in a whisper. How so? Neji-san, what are you eating? Lee asked. Dinner. Naruto gave me. Well, it's about him we're talking about. It's about what he told us during dinnertime with Kazekage Gaara. Tenten sat on the bed beside the Hyuga while Lee sat on the other side so they could speak lowly and still hear clearly. I wonder if this is tied in with the Chunin exams that Naruto just mentioned. Go on. Naruto admitted to us to be the container of a demon, just like Gaara. She said almost inaudibly. A demon host like Gaara. He tapped his chin while he thought. I've once heard of such a thing. They are called Jinchurikis. Well yeah, that's what he called himself. A Jinchuriki. Lee said, recalling the conversation. Or a wreck of an explanation, depended on who you asked. Power of human sacrifice. Neji mumbled. Remember 3 years back at the Chunin exams when I countered your rotation? You'll see. Of course. That red chakra I saw throughout the fight. So that's what he meant. But I already had my suspicions. I suspect that Shino and Shikamaru-san also harbor suspicions but do not care. Come to think of it, I don't care if he is. Why should you? He said that he's the demon container for the nine-tailed fox. She hissed. This is big. He started to eat again, rapidly losing interest in the conversation. You're dodging the question. I asked you why do you care? I care. It's not like I suddenly hate him or anything. She glanced to Lee, entreating for oratory assistance. It's just that it changes how you see him. We see him in a different light. Lee finished, much to the Higarashi's relief. What kind of light? A sinister, malevolent one. A person who is more than likely to become traitorous and dead like Gaara once was. No. Tenten sighed. Right now, I would say that Naruto is the person who I respect the most, even more than Hiyashi-sama, my uncle. He has converted me to change my erroneous and arrogant ways from 3 years ago. He has promised to neutralize the cage bird seal that afflicts the branch of the Hyuga clan, even though right now it is little more than a pipe dream. Even tonight, he was looking out for me, bringing back a slice of cake for me, knowing that I skipped dinner. But you're eating now, Lee pointed out. Neji smiled. The very same gave it to me when I told him I do not consume alcohol. She stared at it for a minute. That food looks like it took 2 hours or more to prepare. How could he have given you that? He carries food with him in seals. The point is that Naruto is a very idealistic and upstanding character, and I believe that for imprisoning the Kyuubi must be a daily trial for him. He has suffered the most, helped the most, fought the most and was miserable the most. That's true. I should apologize to him for acting up. Lee said quietly. Me too. Tenten agreed. With Naruto, the Uzumaki sat on the roof with his legs dangling off. He had left Neji to speak with his teammates he had sensed coming. Perhaps tomorrow I'll find out how they truly feel. After all, many great decisions were made when someone slept on it. He breathed in the crisp desert night air, bringing about a confusing reaction of pleasurable goose-bumps on his skin. Do I enjoy or hate being cold? He pulsed his chakra once and revealed his 6 seals again on his arm. He quickly unsealed a scarf from the 4th seal and wrapped it around his neck. Almost immediately, his goose-bumps receded. We're leaving at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. I hope they wrap up their talk soon so they can go to bed. I just want to sleep without dealing with all the awkwardness. He stared at the white full moon. It was so close that he could touch it. Was the moon reachable? Is it in the elemental nations? Maybe it's just high in the sky, far out of everyone's reach. He looked back down into the street when he heard unsteady footsteps passing. He saw a young woman about to amble past. As she put her left foot down, she swayed a little, putting her right foot down next. She was barely able to walk in a straight line. She was drunk. He held his passing interest as she walked by. Her kimono was green, just like Matsuri. He continued to stare at her as she walked tremulously. In fact, it was a good thing he did, because she accidentally tripped over her own feet. He hesitated for a blink of an eye before he body flickered next to her and caught her before she fell flat on her face. Luckily, he caught her with a foot or so to spare, but in the heat of the moment he had caught her in the crook of his arm right on her breasts, unlike last time. He blushed lightly, for he was a bit of a prude due to one of his character traits. In fact, he had adopted the trait when trying to have some level of decency around his perverted sonning of a teacher, Jiraiya. She absent-mindedly rubbed more of her breasts against his arms. "You can touch them anytime you like, Gara-sama," she mumbled in a sing-song voice. He stared at the girl incredulously as he blushed heavily. "Gee, good grief," he hissed as he pulled her up so she could stand more properly. "You got completely wasted from a piece of cake, didn't you?" he hissed at her. "Woo, don't you like them, Gara-sama?" She folded her arms behind her and jutted out her chest, making her breasts more pronounced. He turned his head and eyes away slightly. While he was tempted to say, "Hi," in Gara's monotone to tease her, he felt that chivalry was a dying quality and decided to try and keep it alive. "Matsuri, it's Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing here?" she slurred. Apparently, her short-term memory was also shot with her inebriation. "You're out in the middle of the street. You're drunk," he stated simply. Nonsense." She hiccuped a little at the last, making Naruto's sweat drop. "I'm not drunk. Maybe just a little tipsy." "Maybe," she giggled. "Matsuri, let's just get you home. Where do you live?" "Huh, I live at, 28, she started to giggle. "Just, stop. Naruto held up his hand while he rubbed his growing headache. "Wouldn't make sense anyway. I don't know my way around the village and no one's around to help me get her home. Besides, look at her." He started to scrutinize her more seriously. "She's fallen before she got here, and it seems to be multiple times. She's got dirt all over the front of her kimono, and some sand on her face." His mind started working overtime. She must have decided to walk home, but after she set out was when the alcohol in her system started to get metabolized. Must have tripped one or twice judging by the amount of sand, and she thinks I'm Gara. I can't rely on her to guide me to her home correctly. What to do? He took of his scarf and doubled it, holding the middle. He then proceeded to dust the sand off the girl lightly. Perhaps she could stay in the hotel, he mused. After he got rid of the clingy sand and reapplied his scarf, he took her by the elbow and led her up the steps and went inside. Looking both ways, checking for any unwanted eyes, he opened the door and brought her inside. He was seriously considering letting her sleep in the hotel, but he wasn't sure how to procure a room for her to sleep in. He quickly spawned a shadow clone ceaselessly, and the clone started scouring the hotel for any kind of management. 15 minutes later, the clone dispersed, relinquishing memories that it found none available. Suddenly, the doors clicked behind him and Matsuri, startling him a bit. He jiggled the doorknobs and found the doors to be locked. He was unsure of how that could have been to pass. Must be midnight, then. The sign said that the doors locked at midnight, but I guess that's how they could afford to got to sleep before the hotel was officially closed and locked. They must have used a seal or something, he muttered. Now she is me problem. He led her up the stairs gingerly. With all things considered, one thing is clear. She's sleeping here tonight. He looked back at the girl barely making the steps properly. But she's currently inappropriate for sleeping. She needs a bath, fresh clothes, the girl exhaled, sending a puff of sake-laced breath that wafted across his nose. And some mouthwash. He quickly exhaled in his own closed palm and smelled it. Me too, I guess. He quickly led her up the stairs and finally stopped in front of the bathroom he was sharing with Lee and Neji. Let's get this done, he mumbled. The kunoichi must have heard him. Get what done? You're gonna do me, Gara-sama. She giggled loudly, making Naruto clap his hand over her mouth. What are you doing? He hissed. Shish. You'll get us caught. You're not supposed to be here. The girl made some muffled sounds before she went quiet. Satisfied with the silence, he led her inside the bathroom and shut the door behind them. The white-tiled room was immaculate, something he was grateful for. Neji must have used it last. He's got a good sense of cleanliness and order. He hesitated a bit before he realized that if she was drunk, she couldn't take a shower unsupervised, or take her own clothes off for that matter. Perhaps I'll regret doing this one day. Helping people was too problematic. He turned the now listless girl around and untied the belt for her kimono, preparing to help her get out of it. Listen to me, Matsuri. You're drunk, filthy, and you need to get cleaned up. Can you bathe yourself? The girl responded by going completely limp, and had it not for him still holding onto her belt, she certainly would have fallen to the hard ground. Ah geez. He quickly turned her around, stuck one of his palms under her armpit and held her upright, looking at her now peaceful face. Does this make it easier for me? Or harder? He shrugged his shoulders before he continued taking off her kimono. It fell off and pooled around her feet, leaving her in tights, and a pink bra. For some reason, he found her extremely attractive in it, but he tried, and failed, to stop his face from superheating in a blush. He reached behind her and unhooked her bra deftly and removed it, looking at her face only. He then spawned another clone seamlessly that held the girl again by the armpits from behind her while he himself closed his eyes. He then stuck his thumbs in the elastic of her tights and stared to pull it down while he himself fell to one knee. He felt the loins of his own pants start to react to the images being produced by his imagination. Crap, crap, crap. His member started to press against the fabric of his own clothing, pitching a tent there. He groaned internally before he finally reached her ankles. With a small sigh of relief, he lifted one of her feet, then the other, and suddenly, the tights were on the ground. He stood up swiftly and opened his eyes, now looking back on her face, and was about to dismiss the clone before he heard it clear his throat. He looked up and saw the clone gesture to Matsuri's waist by looking to it repeatedly. You forgot her panties too, boss. Oh come on. He repeated. The procedure was the exact same except for the fact that the process was slower. Little Naruto grew up and became an oversized adult, and he was in fear that Matsuri might wake up and deal out some justice to him, and he was going to be obligated to just shut up and take it like a certain perverted old man. Finally finished, he stood up again and relieved the clone of its job while he carried Matsuri and made her stand up in the shower. He then beckoned the clone over next to him. You're going to have to bathe her. What? I don't think I heard you correctly. Bathe her. Why the hell should I? Because I can't afford to get wet in my clothes. You can bathe her since you're just a clone. You can just disperse when you're done, inside the bath. Nowhere get wet needlessly. The clone shrugged in resignation. I guess that's true. He stepped inside the bath beside her and was about to start when he hesitated. Do I have to wash her down everywhere? No, just rinse her down thoroughly. I'm sure she had a bath earlier this evening. She just needs to be cleaner for bed. The clone's sweat dropped. Will do. Naruto closed the curtain, and a minute later, he heard the water come on full force. Deciding to test the waters, he stuck his hand through a crack between the shower curtains and the wall and felt the water spraying heavily from the knob. It was lukewarm, nothing to get excited about. About another 5 minutes of the shower running, it was turned off and the curtains drawn open. He turned his back the second he heard the curtain opening, so he didn't look. Hand me a towel. The statement came from the clone. Naruto retrieved the towel from the clone and gave it to him, eyes still closed. The clone merely shook his head. He doesn't realize. Won't be long anyway. The clone thought, his face ablaze in a crimson blush. The clone quickly dried the girl off with the thick and luxurious towel before giving it back to the original. Naruto merely threw it into the waiting towel hamper before he raised an important question. What is she going to wear now? He looked up to his forehead for a brief moment before coming to a solution. He unsealed one of his black t-shirts from his fourth clothing seal and threw it over the clone's shoulder. A small pair of shorts almost the size of underpants, and elastic sweatpants followed after. She can wear these. Chop chop. The doppelganger growled a little in his throat before he did as he was told. Everything said and done, Matsuri was dressed and ready for bed, but judging from the girl's unconscious form, she was already more than just prepared. The clone heaved the brunette into Naruto's capable arms in a bridal carry. The Uzumaki looked down at the girl's peaceful face. Cute, he murmured. The clone smirked. You'll think of her in more ways than that in 5 minutes. Now wash her mouth and get her to bed. Naruto raised an eyebrow before he made the girl stand upright before throwing some mouthwash into her mouth and swished her cheeks around with it. Some dribbled out of her mouth, but it still got the job done. She no longer had a drunkard's breath and she could always brush her mouth in the morning. Later on, that is. He let her fall back into a bridal carry and hefted her back to his room. At the door, he momentarily balanced her lower torso on his uplifted knee while he opened the door. Once inside, he saw that the room still had a dim light on with Neji and Lee in their respected single beds. He gently laid her, on her back, down on his bed and pulled the covers over her. He sighed, glad that her episode was finally over. Good night, Matsuri, he muttered. Her eyes opened in a squint while her body tensed a little. Good night, Gaara-sama. She quickly leaned up on her elbows and before Naruto could react, the girl kissed him on the lips. For that brief second, Naruto's mind started to think about everything about the kiss, instead of focusing on the kiss itself. About why she kissed him, mistaking Gaara. About why she would kiss Gaara on the lips. About how she continually mistook him for Gaara. About how much he was enjoying the chaste kiss. About how her soft lips perfectly fit his own. About why the hell was he thinking about the kiss instead of focusing on the kiss. About why the hell would he kiss her back if he knew it was an accident. Before he could do anything or say anything, she fell back on her back and was sound asleep. Oh Cammy, what the hell just happened? He backpedaled out of the room and went back to the bathroom, his mind in a muddle. This girl's going to be the end of me, and it hasn't even been an hour since I started helping her. He cursed to himself. He re-entered the bathroom to make sure that the room was in good order. Satisfied that it was, he was about to leave when he saw his clone still looking expectantly in the shower. Well, it's been 5 minutes. Sayonara, boss. The clone gave a small wave before it dispersed. In that instant, Naruto's mind was suddenly afflicted with memories of Matsuri. There were a lot of details, and the more his mind processed, the more the growing blush on his face increased. The bastard clone was checking out the girl's bubble, but while he was undressing her. The whole time. Then his mind raced to when he was in the shower. The clone had Clear's throat enthusiastically cleaned the girl while the shower was running, and Naruto was now getting all the details. While the clone didn't touch her in any perverse way, Naruto felt like he had, and he now knew exactly what Matsuri looked like. From her perfect B cups to her neatly shaven, T-rated censoring, he now knew exactly what she looked like, from head to toe. He heard something like water drip to the floor at his feet. He looked down and saw a lot of blood droplets on the ground, joining together to make a small puddle. He looked up at the mirror and saw his face, heated red hot to supernova proportions. He had the presence of mind to feel his face, and he nearly had to withdraw his hand in shock. His face was practically on fire. He started to swoon a little in dizziness and perverted euphoria before he slapped his own face hard, making the sound reverberate around the room. With the self-inflicted physical pain, his original demeanor and fortitude returned, and he reached for some tissues and wiped up his blood of the ground. As he progressed, he got more and more cleaned up, and he finally dropped it in the porcelain throne. He reeled off one more ply and cleaned off the rest off his face, and this wad of paper soon joined his brethren in the toilet, where it was promptly flushed away. Naruto walked out of the bathroom and shut off the light using the switch next to the door. He then made his way back to his room and was about to lie down back on his bed when he realized that Matsuri was in his bed. His resolve broke when he saw lithe form being illustrated by the covers as his mind started to replay the perverse memories like a twisted slideshow. He shrugged before he unsealed a futon out of his fifth seal, living supplies e.g. furniture, and gingerly placed it on the ground. He then stretched out on his futon and yawned. His last thought as he fell asleep was that he needed to get the T-rated censoring out of Sunagaku as soon as woke up. Omake. He was sleeping contentedly on his pallet out in the wilderness when he was jolted awake suddenly. All was peaceful and quiet, so what woke him up? He looked around the forest. All he could hear was the occasional cricket. His internal clock told him that it was around midnight, maybe 1 a.m. His senses suddenly tingled. Ah, there it is. He jumped up and looked to the night sky. It's finally happened. He's finally stooped to my level. Jiraiya the Toad Sage started to do a jig like a madman in the middle of the night. He's no longer a prude. He's finally a pervert. He yelled at the top of his lungs. He's a pervert just like me. Kakashi got up at the crack of dawn, due to force of habit. No matter what time he went to bed, if he stumbled into bed drunk at 3 in the morning, his tendency to wake at this time had pulled him through. It also damned him when on certain days he wanted to sleep in, like today. He just got the feeling that something happened, or was going to happen, and he wanted no part of it. An hour later of dodging Guy's morning training invitations, he got out his slice of cake from his seal and looked at it. It looked absolutely delicious. And tempting. He quickly looked around for anyone who could be close by and pulled down his masks. He started to eat it quickly, habit, and was almost scared out of his wits when a Shunshin came into being next to him. He quickly pulled up his mask regretfully, knowing that he probably wouldn't get to finish it with any witnesses around. Especially someone like Naruto. Good morning, said Genin. Didn't try to return the pleasantry. We're leaving Suna. Now, he said, with an air of finality. The silver-haired man raised his visible eyebrow. All of a sudden, he knew that whatever feeling that's been hitting him all morning had to do with why Naruto wanted to leave Suna. But why the hell did he want to know? Why? 30 minutes before, Neji, Lee, and Naruto's room. The girl opened inky black eyes suddenly that begun gazing at the ceiling. They had a lack of focus at first, but she was soon able to shake the cobwebs of her consciousness with a yawn and a stretch. That was when she realized that she was not in her bed, not in her room, not in her house. And she most certainly did not accommodate white-eyed people staring at her in her bedroom. As her mind registered that fact, she sat up quickly with a startle, impulsively pulling her bed sheet over herself up to the neck in a gasp to cover her body, because she usually slept in next to no clothing. What the? I am in clothes. Oh Kami, did I sleep with that guy over there? Where is this? Neji merely scrutinized the girl whose face appeared as if her mind was going a mile a minute. Matsuri, why are you here? Neji, she groaned as a small hangover struck her and she attempted to cure it by rubbing her temples. Where am I? You're in the hotel. Now answer my, and more important question. Why are you here? He narrowed his eyes, now giving a threatening vibe. I don't know. Honest. She dropped the sheet to put her hands up in front of her, trying to show that she was in submission to Neji's reproof. I don't even know how I got here. Well, what is it you know? I was walking home last night. She racked her brain for some sort of memory, but all she got was a blank, and the more she tried to remember, the more her head hurt. And that's it. She finished pulling off the sheet and got off the bed over the side, feet first. Into a sleeping Naruto's gut. The Uzumaki jolted out of his sleep and grabbed her legs and wrenched them, twisting the girl's whole body, and she fell to the ground with her feet in a break hold. He held on to the flat of her feet. Breaking it would be frighteningly simple. Gah! What the? Naruto! What are you doing? Naruto was about ready to make a simple savage jerk to break her ankles at the joint stopped when he heard her voice. He quickly gathered his bearings before he glanced at the owner of the leg's face. Matsuri. He quickly released his hold and got up. Sorry about the instincts and all that, wait a minute. He narrowed his eyes as he recalled last night's events. Why the hell would I say I'm sorry? Neji spared a glance at Naruto's futon on the ground. How could he have missed seeing that? That's my second strike, and it hasn't even been 12 hours properly. What do you mean? Why wouldn't you apologize? You damned near broke both my legs. She got back up and stood on one foot at a time, trying to massage the pain away from them with her hands. You should be the one apologizing. Twice even. Naruto yelled back. Twice. I'm sorry for stepping on you. Although you kinda deserved it for sleeping right where I would descend the bed. I don't know what else I'm apologizing for. She tried to make peace cause the last thing she needed were two pissed off male teens who were far stronger instead of her being pissed at her own presence in their room. Where's the second apology? And what kind of messed up apology is the first one, huh? About. I deserved getting stepped on for where I was sleeping. I'll have you know, you were sleeping in my bed. I don't know about any other wrong I did. Naruto paused. Should she be saying, sorry, for what happened? It was all an unfortunate accident, one that could be blamed on no one. Perhaps he had overreacted this morning in his thinking the night before. You're right. You didn't really do anything wrong. All of her deeds and actions flashed through his mind, but he managed to suppress them. It wouldn't do to start reacting to them so, especially in front of said girl. But you should be saying, thanks, though. For what? She lifted her eyebrows, wondering what he was getting at. Chivalry. Excuse me, what happened to me last night? And why am I in this hotel room with both of you? Have you ever drunk any alcohol before? No. Why? Naruto looked to the Hyuga, before looking back to the brown-haired Sunanin. You're a lightweight. Neji's eyes widened. Did Naruto sleep with Matsuri? In here, I might as well be blind. She got drunk and he took advantage of her and you got wasted from the sake cake last night. When I saw you last night passing the hotel, you were drunk off your ass. I brought you inside, got you to change your clothes, take a shower and changed you into clothes you could sleep in and let you sleep in my bed while I slept on a futon on the ground here. He explained quickly. Her mind, quick as a blink, caught up to what he was saying. Oh, thanks a lot. I really owe you. Wait a minute. Her face reddened as her mood took a dangerous spike. You showered me. Does that mean? He lifted his hands in his defense. Whoa, calm down. I had a shadow clone do all the delicate work, so to speak. Neji, who had been listening, was relieved to know that he wasn't on some sort of clueless streak. But Naruto, don't your shadow clones transmit their memories to you? Naruto sighed. Shit, Neji. His attention turned to the girl who looked about ready to blow her stack. Oh Kami. Just to be clear, your clone showered me and saw every part of me. Hi. And you got all the memories. Hi. I don't like where this is going. Did you perv on the memories? No. His eyes wandered as he spoke, letting her know he was lying. You lying pervert. Oh crap. I was just trying to help. That was all he had to say before a knuckle sandwich made its way to his face. In a slight panic, he replaced himself with the nearest thing to his weight. Unfortunately, his eyes landed on Neji. The renowned Hyuga got a black eye, getting knocked to the ground on his butt. Naruto, not sticking around for the fallout of the situation, fled in a shunshin to the hotel's roof where he could sense Kakashi's chakra signature vaguely. And that's what happened, Kakashi-sensei. We gotta go. Hold on. The silver-haired Junin paused. Did you enjoy the memories? The man looked as if he was smirking underneath his mask. The vibe was also strong as well. The Uzumaki hesitated. Hi. At first, but I disciplined myself. But that's not the point. We have to leave Suna, now. You're gonna be like Sasuke. Always avoiding girls. I'm not like that. Besides, this is different. A sand shunshin materialized next to them and Matsuri emerged from it. Aha! I knew I sensed you up here. Quote exclamation mark quote. Naruto leapt to his feet and started running away from her over the expansive roof. I was trying to help. He quickly spawned a dozen clones and ran interlacing with them in an effort to confuse her. They all soon disappeared in a burst of speed. Kuso. She looked back to the Hatake briefly before she ran in a seemingly random direction. She would be damned if she let him get away from her. Kakashi looked around again testily to look around for witnesses once more. Seeing none, he unsealed the cake again. He was about to pull down his mask for the second time, but Guy seemingly appeared out of nowhere. Kakashi, my youthful rival, let us go on a sprint around the village's borders. We need to warm up for the morning's exercises. Oh, brother, with the real Naruto. He dropped in front of the Cage's residence and ran to the door and knocked on it with his fist instead of his knuckles. Spotting the brass knocker, he rapped it on the door hard. In another moment, the door opened to reveal a sleepy-looking Kankuro. Naruto barely recognized him without his makeup, war paint. Wah, Naruto, what the heck are you doing here? It's too early for this shit. He yawned and while rubbing his eyes tiredly. Just let me in to see Gaara. Quick, I want some asylum. He pushed in rudely past the puppet user and rushed straight to Gaara's presumed office he went to the last time. He didn't even knock but barged in, only to find Gaara reading a book sitting in his seat with a cup of tea close by. The young Cage took a sip and continued reading. I believe you're getting too casual with me, Naruto. Yeah, I'm sorry and all that. Listen, it's about Matsuri. The redhead put down his book, now interested since it concerned his subordinate. What about her? Something about his best friend's tone when he mentioned her name made Gaara feel like Naruto sounded guilty of doing something to offend her. Hence why he responded with a warning undertone. He smirked inwardly as he saw Naruto looking thoroughly intimidated. Quick. Divert the conversation. Quick. Is there any reason why Matsuri could mistake me for you? Quote, question mark quote. It happened after I left. When I saw her going home drunk, she kept thinking I was you, for some reason, even though we're completely different. Sip. She's a censor, to some extent. A censor. Hi. Perhaps our Biju chakra gives us near identical auras. She probably won't make this mistake while sober, but if she's inebriated, it would make sense that she could make such an easy mistake. The ability though, when she uses it drains her monumentally. She doesn't use it often now, as a result. Sip. That makes sense, although my Biju chakra supersedes yours by far. Wait a minute, she's a censor. Shit. The room was barged into by the Suna Kunoichi, her rage fuel reddening her face. Aha, I found you. Oh come on. As a defense mechanism, he tried to mentally reach for nature chakra to access sage mode. In his lack of a serene mind, he was too slow and he was nearly a victim to the girl's anger. In fact, if it hadn't been for Gaara's sand restraining the girl's hands, Naruto might as well have been unconscious judging by the veins that were bulging in her hand, straining in an effort to get free. Gaara manipulated Matsuri to force her to sit in an empty chair. Glaring at Uzumaki, he also took a seat, albeit hesitantly next to the girl. You both are behaving unbecoming of your age. It would do you well to amend yourselves. Gaara said in monotone. Naruto glanced at the kunoichi next to him. I was only trying to help. If you would prefer, the next time you get drunk and pass out, you can sleep in the gutters. I think I would prefer that over visual rape. Someone would probably rape you in your sleep, anyway. You got showered and you didn't even wake up. He shot back. Getting a slight feel of killing intent coming from Gaara, he stopped, mostly out of respect and self-composure than fear of his friend. We need to fix this dilemma. Matsuri, if you know that you can't handle alcohol, why did you eat the wine cake instead of the sponge cake? You and Naruto were very impressed by the cake's standards and so I decided to try it for myself. More like a need to impress a certain guy. Naruto muttered. He was ignored as Gaara pressed on. Nonetheless, If you couldn't handle the first few bites, what made you think it would get easier to manage as you went on? Acquired taste, she said uneasily. Go on. She quickly told of all that happened from her point of view and limited memories. Naruto went next and told of all that happened, up until he arrived in Gaara's office. He also omitted several details like the kiss. He certainly didn't want to dig his own grave even deeper. Enough. From what I was told, this is a very petty situation, stemming from someone's good intentions. Yeah, we all know where that leads. The kunoichi muttered. He was trying to help you the best way he knew how. The fact that he got a clone to do most of the sensitive work shows that he was considerate of your chastity. Although he should have recalled the fact of memory transfer, from what I was told. I believe you should be thanking him for all he had done for you, not trying to fight him. He bathed you, clothed you and let you sleep in his own bed while he took the floor. She stopped to think about what the cage said. All he had told her had made sense and it stood to reason that she should be grateful to Naruto. At least he didn't try to feel her up or kiss her or anything. You're right, Gaara-sama. Naruto, arigato, for helping me. And I'm sorry for not explaining myself properly. Naruto responded. All right, now both of you, hug to ensure friendship. Naruto's eyebrows nearly lifted completely off his face. Could you repeat that in my good ear? He turned his head sideways to the cage to listen better to the redhead who was not smiling whatsoever. Hug. Killing intent crashed down on two, making them sweat in nervousness. They both got up and hugged each other awkwardly before Gaara nodded in acceptance, stopping the ki. They sat back down in their seats before he continued. Now that that issue has been resolved, I some news that concerns Matsuri. I'll proceed when Naruto fetches Kakashi-san. I cannot tell Naruto he has no authority because he is still a genin. HMPH. I'm Junin level, for Kami's sake. He got up and shunned away to retrieve the Hatake. In a few short minutes, they both reappeared in the office. Kakashi bowed his head in greeting as he stood next to his student. Kakashi-san, good morning. I won't beat around the bush. Matsuri is going to Konoha with you all. Quote. Say what? I am. She is. I need an ambassador there and a messenger to Suna should anything happen. Wah. What? What about Temari-sama? I don't want to leave Suna. This is my home. The girl protested. Yeah, what about Temari? Besides, she likes to stay in Konoha and visit Shikamaru. Naruto added. She's taking a rather long leave from her duties. Her so-called vacation days have built up on each other and she's cashing it in, or so I've been told. She's going to be in another nation altogether. Matsuri is going in her stead. But why me? Why not someone further up the chain of command? I'm not that important, just an orph. Naruto glared at the girl, who shut up. Gaara leaned towards them conspirationally and took a moment to activate a privacy seal for the room. In short, from ever since, members of Suna's council have been wayward in their moral compasses and dealings with me. If you looked around, you would realize that only those I trust the most are those I give important roles, as in the case of my sister, Baki, and now, you. He pointed at the girl. They are currently pushing for one of their nominations for the role of ambassadors, but I ousted their proposal for you, Matsuri. Gaara-sama trusts me that much. It almost felt as they were displeased at my return, and there's currently a small investigation into their backgrounds and profiles. When the time is right, I'll personally deal with them. In the meantime, Matsuri will be staying on Konoha for 6 months to be Temari's temporary replacement. What say you, Hatake-san? It sounds feasible. One ambassador's as good as another, I suppose. I'm sure that the Hokage will accept the change, and if she doesn't, my student here can convince her. They're quite close. Hold on. What am I? Insurance? Frankly, Naruto, you are. Gaara said dryly. When will you be leaving? In an hour, at 10 a.m. She finished sealing the last of her clothes inside the large scroll. Hearing a small noise in the kitchen, she looked up sharply. I'm not carrying my kitchen sink, you know. Ha, ha, a male voice called back sarcastically. I'm just looking around to see what food you can bring and what you can throw out. Besides, it's 6 months, might as well, right? The sound of paper rustling was heard and then, clearly audible chewing and crunching. Ah, are you eating my food? Naruto came in while wiping his mouth with his sleeve. No, he was betrayed by a small burp that escaped his mouth. He grinned embarrassedly at the kunoichi who fumed. What was that? Was that my sweet plum-flavored dango? Well, it was gonna go bad in a week or so, but today, it was still very good. His eyebrows narrowed a little. However, in the bag, I saw the horrible price tag and I realized that the dango in Konoha was far better and cheaper. So in all actuality, I did you a favor. Burp. Excuse me. I was gonna eat that this morning for the extra energy for the run to the leaf. And that was the sweetest thing I had. Naruto unsealed a piece of cake from his arm and waved it under her chin. Catching a whiff of it, she backpedaled away from him. Oh no, I'm not hopping onto that ride again. Shrugging, he sealed it again back into his arm, which she eyed carefully. Do you have anything sweet in a seal on your arm? Sure. What do you want? I want the same dango you just ate. Please. The sage sweat dropped. I only have chocolate-covered dango. Even better. Now hand it over. She stretched one hand out to him while raising her other hand in a fist threateningly. Very reluctantly, yet anxious to please, he obliged and gave it to her. His hand nearly burst into flames at the ferocity of her snatch from his palm, and in no time at all, the dumplings were all gone. Seeing her eat like that reminded him a bit of himself when he had seen slideshow pictures of himself that Ayame, his surrogate sister, had taken of him eating ramen when he was smaller. Take it easy, it's not gonna run away from you, you know. I've had the displeasure of people running away with my food. Now hurry up and help me pack. He merely waved his hand over the room in a sweep. We're already done. Now let's go, he said simply. She looked around and saw he was correct. She was already in her kunoichi outfit, so she was ready and prepared to leave. Realizing this, the thought struck her that she was leaving Suna, her home for all her life. 6 months should hardly have been a big deal, but she had never been away for more than a single one. 6 months. She might as well stay there, for all the time she was going to spend in the hidden leaf. You gonna be alright? The Uzumaki raised an eyebrow. I'm abandoning my home, the whisper was barely audible. No, you're not, he answered sternly. You're doing your country a great service and it needs you in Konoha for it to be strong. Is that abandonment? She mumbled something. What was that? I said no, but all my friends are here, and Atetsu, the Subaku. He gave her a minute before he started speaking again. I was targeted, for being a Jinchuriki, he began. I was being targeted by the Akatsuki. Filled with bad people and boogeymen and whatnot. Nasty people at the very least. She looked up to him as he continued. So my sensei, Jiraiya the Toad Sage, told the Hokage that he wanted to carry me on a training trip. I was at first eager to go with him. Maybe learn some awesome jutsu. He chuckled here and elicited one from her as well. But when I learned that it was going to take 2 to 3 years, I was about to change my mind. But you still went on the trip. She figured. How come? It took quite a few people actually, including Kakashi Sensei, my Junin teacher. He had gotten hurt when Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki had come to capture me. Later, Sasuke, my defected teammate, got hurt as well to his brother. Kakashi told me that he wanted me to get strong so next time, we could fight at each other's sides, and not one looking out for each other in intervals. And so I went, keeping that in mind. It's not really because of Sasuke, or because of a need to get stronger. It was because I needed to be able to look out for others, as well as my home, instead of it just sheltering me. Do you understand what I'm getting at? She smiled. Yeah, I do. You're saying that I shouldn't be doing this based on my wants, but on the needs that my village has for me to do my part. Exactly. He smiled back. Let's go. She placed the storage scroll on her backpack along with some miscellaneous supplies for the trip. Naruto led the way out of her apartment and she left it and locked the door, the living space devoid of any evidence of occupation. In fact, her bold mood lasted all the way to Suna's gate where the Sabakus were waiting to see her off, as well as her teammates. Her teammates were curt and they challenged her to a spar when she returned from the Leaf, on the grounds that a lot of strong people lived in the Leaf while a few in Suna. You better come back strong, Matsuri. I can't keep pulling the weight of the team, you know. Itsu joked. You, pulling my weight. You're gonna get it when I come back, Waihar. She punched him playfully on the shoulder. He laughed and excused himself. He and their comrade left quickly to go get a bit to eat. The Sabakus goodbyes, while mirth was there for anyone to see and hear, she felt most determined to come back stronger, if not for her team's sake, but for the sake of her own pride. She felt really obligated to put out more desirable results for Gaara to see, for he was the one to instill confidence in her as well as train her to an extent. Make sure you don't wreck our good name over in Konoha, girl. Temari piped up. I really made sure I was completely reputable and upright over there. I'll make sure I don't get involved in any wrongdoing. She answered firmly. It's not a duty, Matsuri. It'll be fine to socialize and such during your stay there. You only need to make sure you are present at all meetings where your presence is required, as well as send letters about what we need to know. Just be sure to be very clear in what you write so that it doesn't come across that you're sending secret messages that you may be spying to collect. Clarity. I can do that. Kankuro nodded. The whole, fine to socialize, thing that little brother just said, don't do it to a degree like that issue this morning. That was an isolated incident. She replied, blushing a bit. Sure it was. And another thing, Temari here used to sleep with Shikamaru. What? Gaara? The Gaara, exclaimed with some killing intent rising. Calm down. I don't mean sex-related. Kankuro said nervously. I meant that she slept at his house. I mean the whole thing was very cost-efficient, no one minded, and on top of that, the Naris were glad to have her, heir, so I've been told. True. Temari said in agreement. So you're suggesting that she sleep at someone's house? She doesn't know anyone that well, nor does anyone her, and boarding in someone's home could be scandalous. Everyone knows that Shika and Temari here are into each other, and I've never heard any rumors or scandals. Kakashi butted in. But I can't afford to pay for boarding at an inn for half a year. Nor have I made enough to rent somewhere for that long. It would kill my savings. Unless if I were to get. You don't get pay before you work, Matsuri. Besides, do you want to spend your earnings on what you work? Kankuro interrupted. No, she admitted. She brightened up after some thinking. What if I stayed with Naruto? What? Naruto yelled the interrobang, making Kakashi rub his ear to soothe the ache it got. Please. Her bottom lip quivered as her eyes grew to massive proportions while they inexplicably glimmered. Holy crap. Puppy eyes. Someone help me. Please. I don't wanna give in. The Hatake rolled his visible eye. Stop overreacting, Naruto. Besides, you live in what most people would call a dump. She should stay somewhere else. Not a dump for long. Naruto pointed out while trying to avoid looking at the Suna Kunoichi with the impossible face. How come, Dad? Naruto said sternly, making the Cyclops eye widen. Dad, what about this? Dad. Stop pretending you don't know what I'm talking about, Kakashi. Kuso, it's as if everyone still takes me for a wet behind the ears brat. It was all he would say while the copycat ninja had the decency to at least look ashamed. Soon, the rest of the Leaf Nin left, and with a few more short words, Naruto sighed, hugging Gaara and wishing him the best, they started running to the Leaf Village, hands behind them to cut through the air quicker. They soon broke clear of just endless sand, and random trees became more and more frequent until the ground became solid and the few trees, a grassland, and from a grassland, a forest. The whole journey no one really spoke, but one could feel a small need to get to the village more quickly. Someone mumbled something and Neji looked to the person. What is it, Kakashi-san? I had forgotten to send Tsunade-sama a message on our progress. She's still in the dark about what really happened. Recalling her master's anger that sometimes came to the fore, she nodded. Yeah, you're probably gonna get it, Kakashi-sensei. Hey Naruto, mind being there as a human shield, support. Don't speak to me, Hitaki. The Uzumaki kept staring ahead, not bothering to look at his Junin-sensei. The silver-haired man closed his visible eye. He was certain that his attempt at some humor would have been enough to patch the rift he had inadvertently created between him and his student. Yikes. What happened between you two? Tenten asked, her eyes wandering between the two males. Lee turned to Naruto who was running beside him. Naruto-kun, that behavior is not youthful. The Uzumaki frowned. His eyes closed while running, and a few moments later, they opened, revealing the trademark eyes of Toad Sage Mode. He shot off like a rocket with nary a word to anyone. They all looked at his disappearing figure worriedly before turning to Kakashi, their gazes questioning him. He thinks that I'm treating him like a kid. Matsuri finally understood what was going on. He had told me that the main reason why he left to go on the training trip was to be able to fight at your side, and not you looking out for him like a caretaker. Neji caught on as well. And by treating him as if he were a child, he's become upset with you. I didn't really do anything wrong. I was merely being cautious. The man defended. Made a look to his eternal rival, and raised an eyebrow. What was the matter about? Kakashi stared at all the members of the younger generation around him. I cannot say. Well, given that he spoiled the secret of his being the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox last night, what could be more secret than that? Tenten asked. Guy and Kakashi kept their surprise well hidden. Naruto told them. Why would he be so casual about it? Nonetheless, I cannot say anything. Drop the issue. The silver-haired man said firmly. I'm gonna try and catch up to see if I can talk to him. The Suna Kunoichi said suddenly. No offense, Matsuri, but I think his speed is completely out of your league, even without that sage mode of his. Neji remarked. And besides, what good would it do if you spoke to him now? Well, I dunno. I can at least try, right? She leapt to the next branch, and as soon as her feet made contact, she forced more chakra to her legs and jumped further away in an attempt to catch up. Soon, she was out of sight due to the foliage of the trees. I wonder how long she can keep up that speed. Lee wondered. She didn't know how long she had been running, but she really hoped that she wasn't getting lost. While she had been to the leaf before, she was always following someone else who knew the way, and all the trees looked the same. She began to muse if they were running a straight line to Konoha, because if they weren't, she would pass it and never would know. She had even started having thoughts of waiting for the others to be sure, but it would bring her shame and embarrassment. Sure, no one liked having that, but it was better than being all alone by one's lonesome, not knowing where to go. Besides, she was getting really tired, as channeling chakra constantly for so long was starting to put a strain in her body. Suddenly, her eyes caught a footprint mark, deeply set in a tree branch. Convinced that it was Naruto's for his enhanced body causing such an effect, she forgot her weariness and continued. However, to make sure, she tried to sense for his chakra and aura, only to discover that he was only in front of her by 100 meters and no longer using sage mode. Forcing herself to continue, she dashed off even more quickly than before in an effort to catch up. Soon, he was in sight, and with an oomph of effort, she forced the dregs of her chakra to her feet to power a leap that would certainly bring her to his side, if not more an overshoot. He turned around, having sensed her chasing after him from miles back, only to see her jumping to his side in a slight strafe. I wonder if I should have just kept on the sage mode and just kept running. Why would she try to catch up to me? Naruto, wait up, she called. He merely remained as he were, that is, tree-hopping casually. She realized in frustration that she was still going to fall short. Damn it, I won't be weak. She landed behind him heavily on the branch. Jumping off of it, she made a large fault crack in it and hopped again. Come on, wait. He closed his eyes in an effort to ignore her but found that he couldn't tune her out, most certainly because it was a violation of his true character. Leave me be. He took off more strongly, and in that instant, the girl felt woefully outclassed as she saw him gain even more ground. Growling, she dug deep and prepared herself for one last jump dash to catch up. Her aching legs threatened to give up on her, but she herself refused to do so. Moreover, she felt that somewhere, deep in her mind, that he was testing her. Call her crazy, but she really felt so. But she had no idea why she would even try to step up to such a challenge. Planting her feet firmly, she bent her legs fully at the knee and gave one mighty leap to the Uzumaki. In a small measure of delight, she saw that she would land right in front of him. But the feeling was dashed when she saw that his next leap would carry him to the lead again. In fact, he was just in front her now. Upon landing, she made one last attempt to catch up to him. Her hand reached out and grasped at his shirt collar. But even that too was nullified due to the fact that her body practically went into shutdown and her body just stopped taking orders from her mind. His collar slipped from her grip. Her feet made it to the branch to land on, but they never transferred the momentum properly and started to trip. As she made the mistake, she unwittingly allowed the error of diving head and shoulders at Naruto's fleeting back. He was mid-jump at the time and her weight crashing into him threw him off balance, sending them both careening now to the ground, their body weight increasing their falling velocity. And in spite of this, she actually had the nerve to smile, knowing that she had caught up to him. The knowledge that she had reached him, despite his being at least twice as fast as her without any enhancements, made her happy. And Neji said he outclassed me. Guess even a weakling like me can be strong. Her mind then fled from her. The blonde turned while in midair and saw that she was somehow unconscious. He grabbed one of her flailing arms and pulled her to him. Once doing so, he wrapped his arm around her waist, then hefted her into a bridal carry and channeled a ridiculous amount of chakra to his legs so he could land safely with the extra weight. Upon landing in such a manner, he very nearly let go of her to do a fist pump in celebration. Nailed it. He glanced down at her now serene face and smiled. Well, she doesn't know when to give up. In fact, she kinda reminds me of, well, me. He adjusted her to his back and let her arms drop over his shoulders while leaning forward. With that done, he lifted her legs and held them carefully and started carrying her in a piggyback ride, but instead of running or tree hopping, he walked. They were close enough as it is, and besides, they would still make it ahead of the rest of the Leaf Nin, they were that far ahead of them.